Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the inplayLIVE podcast, episode 11. This week we have Tony, Tony, on the podcast. We're going to be excited to welcome him in just a moment. What are we going to go over? We're going to go over some stuff about statistical analysis and how that ties into his betting world and our betting world. A little bit about his history. He's actually spent over 30 years in the UK. So he's had quite a bit of exposure to soccer, which is something that we haven't really deep dove into yet. And then we'll talk about stuff that's going on in the current season. So NHL's in full swing, NBA's in full swing, and just so some of the practices that he's bringing to the table and how he interacts with inplayLIVE, right?
Absolutely. And I think that having Tony on for me is really kind of special because I think as a community, we're all bringing as much value to the table together as we possibly can, but Tony's one of these few guys that skyrockets to the very top of the list because he's got a great sense of humor, which is always welcomed in a big group of people that are, sometimes a little intense and focused on, very specific things. So he can lighten the mood at the right moment. And the next is just the amount of statistical analysis and data that he's brought to the group has really taken it from, kind of a bunch of guys claiming to know what they're doing to, wow, there's some real... there's a method to the madness, shall we say.
with a serious level of care and attention too. So
yeah, absolutely. Cool. And I think for me personally, I am a big numbers guy, and I love looking at them and understanding them and going, okay, this is what makes sense, this is what doesn't, and I've always been that way. But it's really nice to have someone that takes it to the next level, and what I mean by that is actually has the technological ability to go far beyond what I'm personally capable of, and also what anyone I know in my network, my media network, is capable when it comes to specifically statistics. And at the end of the day, when you're trying to make money when you wager on sports, it really is all about statistics because you need to make a wager that's more probable than the outcome implies. And that's the data that he's bringing in the community. So why don't we bring him in?
Without further ado, Tony, welcome. How you doing, buddy?
Guys, how you doing? Pacer, Ritzker, it's an honor to be here. Delighted to be asked, and it's great to join you.
Yeah, let's address the elephant in the room, and that's that big brown Browns jersey you got going on there. What's the tie to Cleveland? I know you spent a lot of time in the UK. You're a Canadian guy, but how'd you pick your team?
That's a good one, and I think for one thing, I always have respect for people who take their team with them. They don't just move to a new city and then just take on the new team. Or, I'm moving to Tampa because that's where the next good team's at.
What? That was a shot at me?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So, when I was actually brought up here in Canada. I lived here for 10 years. I did all my high school here in Southern Ontario, in Windsor. And so I used to go a lot of the sports and things here. And we had a lot of family connections in Cleveland, in Ohio. And so we used to go there a lot in the summer and weekends and Christmases and stuff. So started following a lot of the Cleveland sports teams. And I was a huge Browns fan in the 80s, the days of when they were called the Cardiac Kids. They had so many winning comebacks from, ridiculous scores down with only minutes to go. And it was just so exciting to watch when they were good. And then, for 30 years, we didn't see anything. And it must be some kind of...
See how he skipped over that?
Yeah. Dot, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
30 years later.
Wait. You've got to be careful, though, what data you correlate together and try and create inference. Because I could say, I left here and they were still doing good. And I came back last year and they've just started picking up again.
Right.
So...
I'm not
saying...
Statistically speaking, you're flawless.
Are you superstitious, Tony?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Well, that's awesome.
You know what, though? I got to touch on the Browns.
Yeah.
They were so exciting to watch this year. And I am the bandwagon guy.
Yeah.
Because I go where the wallet takes me.
Yeah. They're very profitable at times, and they've really stepped up in my eyes, especially from the offensive coordination and the defense to a certain extent. But I think some of the playmaking still leaves a bit to be desired. Near the end, you've got the greatest rushing offense in the NFL, and you're running the last two games and trying to pass the ball.
Yeah.
And that's a big no-no for me. And I think it was out. I don't know if Baker got caught up in the, it's a quarterback show-off. I got to keep up with the big guys. But that's not where the Browns' strengths lie. It's on running the ball.
Well, and Stefanski was at home for that game, wasn't he?
No, they played all right in that game. I think in the last game they made
Oh,
worse.
sorry, you mean in the Chiefs game? Yeah.
Well, you know what? In that particular game too, I know on the inside that was NFL playoffs, and we were executing one of our late game strategies, and I would coin the Browns and Stefanski as the second most expensive punt of the season, because when they punted and gave the ball back to Kansas, that cost. I would say it cost the inplayLIVE community well into the six figures.
Oh, I see.
You know, if you put our wagers all together at that one time. But what I said to the whole community is that punt cost the Browns far more because they had a very real chance at advancing. A very real chance. And on fourth down, they decided to punt thinking their defense could get a stop when their defense was struggling all game. So I thought that was a really poor decision. But I'm excited about the future of the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
I think on a positive takeaway too is when you look at betting on the NFL and you look at the marriage and you see a good quarterback with a good coach and that marriage is there.
Yes.
There's a lot to be read into through that, right? And so that cohesiveness really speaks to, betting into that team or, when you're looking at the odds of that team to do things for you, right?
Yeah. So I'd say as good as I am a sports bettor, I'm that bad or worse when it comes to fantasy football, but I'm in a dynasty league and I own Odell Beckham Jr. So I got to ask you, what do you think about him as a piece of the offense next season?
Well, I didn't think they'd be able to survive without him this season. And a couple of the guys, a couple of tight ends and one of the wide receivers stepped up. I was impressed with Landry at times. I thought he's done a good job. And that big fella who's a bit clumsy, but when he gets the ball, he's all right.
Hooper?
Njoku or Hooper?
Yeah, Hooper.
Hoopy do.
And then Don.
He runs like he's got the Terminator outfit on or something.
Yeah, he is a bit clunky. Yeah.
But no, I think hopefully if he's fit and everything and they can work him back in, but that should really add to the offense because they could do with Baker having a bit more to throw to. And I think it's one of the great things that you highlighted about the quarterbacks. Ritzker, the point you made is exactly highlighted, I think, by Tom Brady going, back to Belichick and look where they are. You said we're getting a coach and getting a quarterback together. What's more evident than that?
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, I forgot what I was going to say before. I was trying to say too much at once.
We're talking about Odell Beckham Jr. and then
whatever we tailed off.
We tailed off like him.
Yeah. Poor guy.
But anyways, the Browns, I think, super bright future ahead. They were one of our most profitable teams this year. I had a ton of fun watching them. Like you said, the run game is incredible, but I think there's actually something when we're talking about, you're saying Baker needs a few more targets to throw to. One of the most underrated aspects, it was, despite how praised he was, is Kareem Hunt's ability to pass catch downfield.
Yeah.
If you look at every single running back in the NFL, how many bad drops you see, number one, and then number two, of all the best catching backs, tell me that there's a better catching back than Kareem Hunt. The only person I'd put on the top of that list is James White, but he's not the high volume guy Kareem Hunt is.
Even Christian McCaffrey might catch more balls, but I think that talent for talent, Kareem Hunt.
Ooh, they're starting a debate. Yeah.
I think talent for talent, like downfield catching, Kareem Hunt is almost impossible to beat.
Yeah, well, I think too also the injuries this year to McCaffrey make it a no-brainer.
One of my personal pet peeves when it comes to receiving, and I know it's one of yours because I'm always screaming at the TV at the same time, is, and we're not talking about backs here, we're talking about receivers who won't go to the ball with their hands. They're waiting for the ball. And not only have you lost the timing, because you would have been there another millisecond before, you've let the other guy get his hand in front, and it's just amateur hour, and you see it all over the NFL. I'd be firing these guys or sitting them on the bench and say, look, get the ball.
But you know who notoriously actually does come back to the ball is Jarvis Landry.
Yeah.
He is a great receiver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's get off football. It's done until September, right?
Right.
Tony,
I loved it though. I really, really enjoyed it. Especially, I love the pace of it. To bet with, I've never bet NFL before until I joined inplayLIVE in November, and I was wondering how do you bet on this stuff? Because the frustration having been in England was the markets for American sports weren't liquid enough. There were no good prices, and there were wrong times of day, so it was never consideration to bet on them.
Cool. It was very offbeat, I guess, hey? Yeah.
Pardon?
Offbeat being back in the UK. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I know we can get stuff online and you can watch the games. I used to have MLB with me on the road when I was touring and stuff like that, but it's not the same. You've got no one to share it with and talk about it and watch together. And there's no, you'd have to be obsessed to stay on top of it.
Right. So Tony, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background betting on soccer then, and how you kind of have transitioned with being back in Canada?
Real football.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, football. It was difficult for me because, just a bit of a quick background, I was actually born in England. But when I was just coming up to 10 years old, my parents emigrated to Canada. So we came here initially to Mississauga in Toronto for a while, and then eventually in Windsor. And I did all my education here, went to French high school, so I speak French. Mais oui, which is nice. And my parents moved back to England. I stayed on for a little while longer. And then I went to go and visit them.
Was it not good enough here, Tony, or what happened there?
Well, here's the thing. I was actually on the road with a band in some bar north of Ontario, Kapuskasing or somewhere. And I phoned home back in the day because, there's no mobile phones or anything. It's like a coin box. And my parents and my sisters had gone to Ireland for a vacation for the summer. And I called when they were due back, and I got to talk to my dad. I said, hey, put Mom on. He's like, so your mom's still in Ireland? I said, oh, and the girls? Yeah, they're still in Ireland, yeah. So we're going to be moving, because they planned on moving back, like, once they'd retired and stuff. So we're going to be moving, like, Friday.
Oh, my
God. My dad had just come home to, like, pack up the furniture and everything. They just made this decision that they were going to move to Ireland, move into my grandma's old house, and just be done with it. So I'm not saying I got left behind,
but kind of.
But if you hadn't called, then you might have come home to a surprise.
I came from doing a gig on a Saturday night in Northern Ontario, borrowing the Luton truck van thing, driving it all the way down, like 6 hours down to Windsor, getting my stuff out of the house, and then driving over to my girlfriend at the time, Lisa, dumping it in her basement, and then driving all the way back up north because we had to go and play some other hellhole. So.
Right.
Crazy.
And so, they left before me. Anyway, so I ended up over there. And I'd always fancied coming back to Canada, but then when I had children and things, I didn't want to be the other side of the world from them until they kind of grew older. But anyway, more specifically, the soccer betting. I always loved math and statistics and things like that. I was always passionate about that and computer programming when I was in high school and onwards. And I wanted to find a way to apply it to sports, and I knew people were doing it. I knew people were making money at it, and so I started looking online. I found a few forums in England, and a particularly good forum is called FTS. It's run by a guy called Ian. He's fantastic. Out of all the people I've been trained with or sort of studied with, he's the very, very best. He makes a good living at it, but you have to really know your stuff, and you've got to be patient. The frustrating thing, if your roots are in U.S. sports, so North American sports, let's say, like me growing up, hockey, baseball, and all that, that's just what you live to breathe. It's hard to find soccer exciting. Nearly half the games are 0-0 after 45 minutes.
Right.
Very different, yeah.
There's no goals, and it's all this kicking in the ball, and no strategy. Sometimes you just think, what are you doing? They're just hoofing it down the field 60 meters, or something. So, very difficult, but I knew people were starting to make money on it, and then when the betting exchanges opened in England, that was the big thing. Betfair was the really big thing, because now you're taking the bookmaker out of it, right? So there's no sports book involved. It was my money against your money in a market that was controlled by someone.
Mm-hmm.
And so the market was so liquid, and the volumes were so high that the price was absolutely accurate.
Right.
I mean, there was no edge to be had. There was absolutely, whatever that price was, I guarantee you that was the statistical probability of that thing happening. It was perfect, because a market will naturally settle itself. You'll get enough people on each side.
Sure.
And what was nice about those events is when you went to bet on an event, you could see how much money had been weighted on each different thing. So you could say, how many people are laying, or how many people are backing this. And of course, on Betfair, you have the option to lay. So you can bet an event not happening.
Right.
So in hockey, it'd be like parlaying the opposing team and the tie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And betting that. But it's easier in Betfair to just lay the one team and say, well, they're not going to win. Any other result, I win.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I got into it all. I started studying, and I came up with a lot of systems. But what I found was as I started getting into real statistical study, I found that most of the people who claim to be making good profits at it and showing me some of these systems and paying courses to go on them and study with them, most of them I found were very back-fitted or back-tested. Now, I've always said this, I'm a keen boater, and that's another great thing being back in Canada, is to be back on the water, especially here in the lakes of Ontario. But you can't steer a boat by looking at the wake behind you.
Right?
Where you've been has nothing to do with where you're going. I don't care how many times that dice hasn't rolled a 1, right? It could be 4,000 rolls without a 1.
Yep.
It's still got a 1 in 6 chance. It's not more likely to happen because it hasn't happened before.
100%. Mutually exclusive.
That is the hardest thing to get through to people. That if you bet at the wrong price, you're going to go poor as quickly as possible. Because, well, I'm betting the home team to win. They always win. Yes, but you're betting them at a price that won't generate you any money. You're going to lose money because you're not getting enough back. Mm-hmm. And so this is where the whole idea of inplayLIVE and the value wager and finding where the value is and making that bet. And you don't have to have a personal or emotional involvement at all. It's a financial decision. You decide that, hey, that's a really good price. I would buy that and sell that all day long, right?
Yes.
I look at it no different than as if I was running an eBay store and I thought, hey, they're selling those at $4 today, and I can sell them for 12, so I'm going to buy as many as I can today. They might not all sell, but I don't have to sell 1 in every 3, and I'm break even anyway.
Right.
So it's about not getting emotionally attached. And then I used to be terrible. The reason I never got profitable was through the frustration of trying to find markets that you could maybe strategize against each other. So where I really got kind of good at, and I've applied this to NFL, is I would bet the total for the half in a particular market, and then I would bet an in-play strategy with a goal or an under-over to sort of use that as a buffer while I was in play. So what I like to do in NFL games, which is great, is if you've got a really high forecast, like the other day, if you get like a 27.5 forecast, I'll bet that under, right, for my main stake. And then what I'll do is, during the game, say you're going to get 5 possessions each, maybe by halftime on a good day. Unlikely you're going to get 10 touchdowns, but what I'll do is I won't do anything until at least 1 touchdown is scored and the outsider or the underdog then has the ball. And then I will only back them on the touchdown, whether they make it or not, to protect the total.
Right.
I will let the home team keep score. I'll let the Bucs score because I'm not going to back their touchdown at 2.2.
Right.
But if I get the Bills at 5 over here, I'll back their touchdown to ensure my under.
Sure.
Right. I've been having really good success with that. So what I've done, I've used a bit of my own history, taking your strategy, melded them together.
But right. So on more of like a macro level, like a higher level, you're basically, you spot value to begin with, you set your bar there, and then within the play, you're watching and using statistical variances with the ebbs and flows of the game to buy in at good prices. So you're creating opportunities of that statistical probability, right?
Right, and I think one of the most difficult things about a great pre-game value play is that regardless of the theoretical value associated with that one number, be that a spread, be that a total, be that a line of any kind, is that it is to a certain extent doing precisely what you just said about the boat, looking at the wake versus looking forward. So, well, you have that theoretical value, and I'm not going to argue whether that value's there or not. I'm a believer that it is there. Whether it is there or not, once the puck drops, once the hoops tip off, once the football's kicked off, whatever it is, all bets are off in that regard. You never know what you're going to get. That's the whole basis of inplayLIVE, right? So I love that you are molding, 2 angles, right? Where you've got this theoretical pregame value, which could be very, very sharp and could profit you money over time. But the money that it could profit you over time, you could argue, 1, 2, 3, maybe 5%. I don't know. But the edge tends to be pretty razor thin, but you're protecting that edge through smaller wagers live.
One thing
you are, and you're giving yourself a little bit of a head start because you're already looking where there's value and it's likely to be under. So that has a stronger than even chance of winning. And then on the way, don't forget those other little insurance bets you're making those are little winners along the way. When I'm betting, 12% and then maybe a 22% on the second bet, if those both win and it stays under, I'm triple happy. I'm done for the day.
Yeah, triple happy.
Now, listen, another thing you just mentioned there, the transition from soccer to inplayLIVE. This is really important because what we did when we were doing the soccer training was don't watch it. Do not get involved, right? Because soccer will convince you they're going to score.
Mm-hmm.
You can watch it all day long, and there's all kinds of stuff. So we were taught religiously, like, place your bets systematically in the morning, do them, and just come back at results and just check your balance. Do not watch the games. Don't get involved, right? Now, and then I started developing in-play strategies. What I like about you guys is it's the opposite. It's like like you just said, when that puck drops, you don't know who's shown up in what mood today, what happened in their life, what kind of state of mind they're in, how motivated are they to win. And you start to get a feel for that as you watch players, as you watch anything, you watch performers. My background is as a musical performer, for example. I've done thousands of shows all over the world, and you can never plan one. Do you know what I mean? You can plan for it to be as great as possible, yeah, but whatever magic happens that night. It cannot be replicated the next night. It might not be. It might be disastrous, and it has been the next night. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because you have a completely different subset of people and a different potential. One might be outdoor, one might be indoor, different cultures, different everything.
We're talking about living human beings, not statistical numbers. You know what I mean? So that a lot of that needs to be factored in. So what I like now is I take my approach that I used to have about getting as close a line as I can and finding out where the value may lay, bearing that in mind, and then trying to apply strategy in play.
Right.
But I won't let that cloud my judgment. I'm learning a lot from you guys like that and saying, okay, I know on a normal day, if this game were played 10,000 times, this would be the expected result. But today could be the outlier game. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right? So, and it's about responding and reading the game. And I think you guys are excellent at that. Yourselves and Kenny and some of the other guys. I must have say, by the way, I haven't said anything yet, but it's a great community. The depth and breadth of members, and the humor, the joking, and it's nice to be part of something where we've all got a very, very keen interest. If we looked at our Facebook metrics, they're probably very similar. We probably see the same ads on our feeds and things.
Yes.
So we might all have different teams and different opinions, but deep down, we're all after the same thing. We enjoy the game and the games, and we're trying to make a good living from it. So.
We talked about that a little bit with Ray and Adam last week. In-play is one of the few places where betting is collaborative, and how it's like we're all working towards a common goal. So much of the betting world is so individualistic. Pay for your pick, make your pick. I think this, you think that.
Well,
right?
look at Betfair. It's
Betfair.
you betting against someone else, literally. Right? Like, we bet with the books, but Betfair is me betting against you.
Which will always have its place in the world and is always a ton of fun, but as far as what when you're trying to accomplish a goal, there is a medium there for everyone to win, right? Yeah. And Tony, I just wanted to unpack a little bit on kind of what you're talking about with soccer versus North American sports. I think in North American sports, there's a lot more parity when you come to the level of competition. And so when you start to see larger numbers within a game and the sways and ebbs and flows within a game, in hockey or basketball especially, or higher scoring games, or football, you can get great value on teams that are actually quite close in competition level. Whereas in soccer, it definitely starts, the gap is much bigger, I think, from higher levels of competition to lower levels of competition, and so you lose that value very quickly in soccer, right? Sure. So that's something that I wanted to kind of poke your brain on, and what your experience in seeing that when you're betting on favorites in soccer, when you have all these different elements.
Well, the best strategies, and these do apply very, very well to the U.S. sports, and I think you have it in the course, Andrew, in the NHL, is you got to be careful not to get carried away with it, but a lot of markets tend to overreact to early events. Mm-hmm. So early goals, for example, tend to fluctuate markets beyond their value on some of them. Yep. And it's a good time to be contrarian. Say an underdog team gets an early goal against someone. It's a good time to say the game was still odds on to be under 2.5 to start with. You back that now because it's gone through the roof and people have overreacted. Think, there's going to be 2 more goals in a minute, So people tend to overreact to the event. So for in-play, that's always something I'm considering.
Right. Right. So, Tony, I mean, coming from, first, just really quick, soccer betting, do you do it still?
No.
Were you...
I'm looking into it. The best strategies I had were for laying the draw, which is that it won't finish in a tie.
Oh, laying the draw. Okay.
Yeah. So you're betting that it won't finish in a tie. Now, or that it won't finish 0-0, depending on what strategy you're doing. But a lot of soccer games end in a tie, like over a third of about 30.
Too many, right, Tony? Too many.
Way too many. There's just not enough goals. I'm still interested in it, but it's there's no way. I think it would be more of, I could apply this and grind profit out of it over a season, but you'll never get the chance to really capitalize on your decisions the way you can in inplayLIVE. And what I was going to say to you about the NFL, and to a certain extent, I guess, baseball, the game is it's not in a rush because one team has the ball, the other team can't have it, right? Soccer, anything can go on. And someone's running, and it's like in hockey, right? Anything can happen. But in NFL, you can sort of wait for the next play. I really love that. Give me a chance to really take it on board, relook at the market, get back in. And that's what's a wonderful sport, I think, for betting on.
Tony, were you with us for baseball this last season?
No, I'm looking forward to baseball.
It's the same idea, right? We have that moment and that pause and that breath where we get to say, we can now do this. But at the same time, that makes it seem like it's calm. It's frantic as hell because we're like, we might be wagering that the next pitch is a strike. Literally.
And
I know.
Yeah, the numbers, the variance in the numbers.
And the numbers just going crazy. So we love baseball. We're super pumped for it. But sorry, Tony, I gotta cut you off. I asked you if you were still betting on soccer. Were you previously successful over the long term betting on soccer to the point that? Okay. So I think that just goes to, a lot of people are looking for soccer. It's a very difficult sport. So can you just really quickly touch on, since you joined inplayLIVE, whether or not it's impacted your success positively or not?
Oh, absolutely. I stopped trying to invest in sports or to gamble on them even for fun for a long time. And I just, as I said, I returned to Canada and settled back in here and got into the whole culture again. I thought, well, this is exciting. And I discovered you guys. So that's really helped me look at it in a whole different way.
Right.
Before, with soccer, it was such a grind, and outcomes were so infrequent, those goals. And you would find yourself chasing your tail a lot because you were waiting on results, and your patience would run out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because not much is happening, so when something finally happens, you're like, shit, I want to get back in because it took so long to...
Yeah. Or you've had 4 or 5, 0-0 games in a row, and you're convinced the next one won't be on you, and you triple your bet or something because your patience is running out. And that's kind of a naive way to use statistics. I want to just clarify something about the stats. They're available to anyone. We can all interpret them. The stats on the web and on NextGen and the networks have are better and more live than we can ever come up with. When you watch a NextGen live, they know exactly how many paces that guy's running, etc. We'll never beat those. But what I'm trying to do here is to sort of interpret those stats and look for things within them that other people are not looking at, so that we can find markets. Like maybe I'm looking at the moment, this model I'm working on. I'll give you a little flash if I can.
Love it. I'd love to see it. So this is some just really quickly before we introduce you, Tony. This is some of the stuff that Ritzker and I were talking about in regards to some of the value being brought to you specifically being a member of inplayLIVE. So I'll let you go. I'll let you go ahead with what you're showing.
So it's just a glance really. But what I'm compiling here is I had to these are tonight's games of when do teams score their goals? So where's the action happening? What periods?
Right.
So if I see a lower scoring game, and I know, for example, the Canucks tend to score nearly 50% of their goals in the third period, I might then go back the over, whatever it is, at period 3 for that particular game. So it gives me something to start with.
Right.
If I watch a game and it doesn't go that way, okay, that goes out the window. I don't fall in love with it. Whereas in soccer, it was a rigid system you had to follow. You had to make the bets. You had to make the bets. And even though sometimes your gut said no, you had to make it because that could be a winner.
Right, but also on that same point, I think what's awesome about inplayLIVE, everyone's touched on it, we love sports. Yeah. And this allows us to continue to love sports. What you said there, would I do that? I would probably do it. I'd put some of those wagers in. But, it takes out the love of the game. When you're told, guys, don't watch it, you're like, Well, I started this because I love soccer.
But I want to.
Yeah. You know, so it's like, I think there are opportunities in all aspects of sports betting, and I think there's a lot of different ways you can make money. What we're doing is not quote unquote the only way. You know, I think there's a lot of different ways that you can do it, and I think there are ways that you can actually be with the public in a lot of aspects, because our gut instinct, and I'm talking about the public as a general statement, is to cheer for Patrick Mahomes, is to cheer for Tom Brady, is to cheer for Aaron Rodgers. It's to cheer for Clayton Kershaw, right? There are still ways to capitalize on cheering for those players that are actually contrarian to the algorithms that are in the sports books. And then there's the other side of it. And that's being contrarian to the public as a whole and betting against them largely, and, you know, wagering against the Clayton Kershaws and the Patrick Mahomes of the world, right? So,
but I think what you guys are good at is finding, let's say, you know, say the general public is the current, it's finding another little side slipstream to that current, really, that lets you just, you know, accelerate with that little bit of extra knowledge. So we're not betting on just the game outcome.
Right.
So people go in there as a Packers fan, they back the Packers to win. What we're thinking is, you know what? We're going to make our money when they need those points, but we're not going to back the team. We're going to get our Bob, or we're going to get a 7-1 here.
Our Bob.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Andrew, the first game I watched you guys play, and I think the first winning bet I saw came in at 6 or 7-1. I thought, oh my God, you can make more in one play in NFL than betting the market from the opening. Why would you bet the line at the beginning of a game in NFL? Why?
Yeah.
There's so many in-play opportunities that I didn't even realize. And, you know, it's your expertise and experience of being able to read that and go, hey, you know, this is why we wouldn't bet that now. I like the way you explain, like, don't take the player points now because he's not at the game, he's not on the bench. And, you know, it's that depth of stuff.
Yeah, but it's also, I appreciate that, so thank you. But it is also simple. Why would I bet Steph Curry to go over 28 points when I know he's on the bench for the next 6 minutes and he's going to come back out and the number is going to be 25? Why would I ever do that? You know what I mean? And some people just don't realize that those subtle differences can be the total difference in whether you make money or not betting on sports. And what I just said was very simple. It's like, yeah, why would you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, and you think, well, I used to do that, or I did that, right? And that, you know, I did too. We all did, right? It's just about learning over time, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you want to ask Tony? Or Tony, anything else you want to touch on?
Anything you want to ask us?
I
feel like we.
I mean, I don't get to interact during the live chats as much as I'd like to, because it just pisses me off typing on phones. You know, I'm a what am I, Generation Z or something now, I guess. Yeah, I'd like to take part more in the forums and stuff, but I do appreciate everyone's comments. I'm always watching and listening. It's highly entertaining. As I said, there's some really diverse members with a lot of experience, and hopefully, you know, everyone keeps sharing. It's great.
Right on.
It's a great environment, and I look forward to one day when we can actually be inplayLIVE live.
Yes.
Have you seen already? I think it's Bet Rivers in the States. They're already setting up their first indoor thing. That looks phenomenal.
Yep. Absolutely. And that's just about fun, right? And I think that the Durges Bros touched on this really well last week. There's a whole other aspect to this. We take it seriously and we want to profit from it. There's the whole other aspect of it that is obviously the problem side. We won't touch on that today. We've touched on that before. But just the pure, who cares if I lose? I'm losing a bit of money today. I could win. And it's just fun.
Yeah.
And that whole Bet Rivers room, that's fun. You know? You head in there, you make some bets, you have some drinks, get some food. Everyone's in there for the same reason. Hopefully not to fight each other like they do in European football, but...
Yeah. Well, in England, like, horse racing is one of the biggest gambling sports. It's massive.
Right.
It's huge. And that's really hard to handicap or figure out for sure, unless you're connected. But yeah, when there was big horse races on, you know, we'd be in a pub or something, and you would just have a sweepstake. You know, you put all the numbers in a hat, everyone throws in $5, you get your horse number, and like, okay, winner takes it all, but who cares? Let's watch it.
Yeah. It's fun no matter what. Yeah, exactly. So, Tony, last question for you. If you have it, you might not. Either what most memorable or favorite moment so far since you joined the community?
Oh, there's been quite a few, actually.
Give us one if you can, Or maybe a great wager that you hit or missed or something.
I think the funniest one I think I had to keep to myself because it was in one of the early NFL games, and I had just started voicing my opinion about being contrarian. I love betting turnovers, I do touchdown turnover my own kind of way.
Yeah.
And I forget what game it was, but it got off to a howling start with like 4 turnovers out of 5, and I hit them all, right? And everyone was like,
"Who is this guy?"
Everyone's effing and blinding on the forum because they've all been right.
Yeah.
And I'm new to the thing, so I haven't got on board yet. And I thought, I'm just going to keep quiet here.
You and Shams would get along well.
All right, Tony. Awesome having you, man.
Well, thanks for listening.
Thank you so much for your support, and obviously all the...
Hello to everyone out there, and it's nice to meet you all.
Yeah, right on, man. Yeah, hopefully everyone gets to watch this episode to see your insight. Can't thank you enough for... you put a lot of work into that stuff, man. And it's... I know it's for your benefit, but I know you do it with the... You don't hold it to your chest. You let everyone have a look at it. So I think it's hugely valuable, and thank you.
It's a good spirit to embody for everybody,
right? We're not
right?
reinventing the wheel here. The data's out there for everyone to see. It's how you interpret it and how you correlate it. Just because 2 numbers exist doesn't mean they mean anything to each other. It's finding out which ones influence the other, and there's where the gold lies, apparently.
Yeah, right on, man. All right, Tony. Cheers, buddy.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks,
Ballroom
Tony.
Blitz.
Cheers. Oh, that was fun.
That was fun.
What a great guy.
Total legend.
Yeah, and I think he embodies, like, if you were to say who's a target person you'd want to join inplayLIVE, someone who contributes socially, intellectually, embodies the mentality of embracing a different culture.
Yeah,
and just has fun with it.
Yeah, and has fun with it, but you can feel the passion.
Yeah.
Number 1. Number 2, and I would be more than happy to keep talking to him, but we got to end the episode at some time. I think we would talk forever.
Yeah, he's a chatter.
And but he also skipped over massive details like, and then I'm a Cleveland Browns fan 30 years later. It's like, whoa!
Yeah.
30 years cut off, and then talks about, thousands of shows performing. It's like, well, who is this guy, right? And if you guys want to know, he was the lead singer for The Suite, which is Ballroom Blitz. So he's done performances all over the world as a rock band vocalist.
Hunky Ballroom Tony.
Yeah, total beast. Beast. Anyways.
Wicked. So tonight we've got a huge slate of puck again.
Yep.
Right, I think 13 or 14 games.
There's too many games on tonight.
Yeah. No football this weekend, but there'll be constant NHL, NBA action. Golf tournament again. It's Torrey Pines, so that'll be fun. We're on a little, don't call it a streak, but a small streak for golf.
Oh yeah, because we hit
woo
woo. Siwoo Kim. Woo woo! For golf. And you know what? COVID blessing with sports. There hasn't been a lot. The blessing has been that they're still on. But hey, no Pro Bowl for the NFL this year. I think we should celebrate that.
I think the only good thing about the Pro Bowl was the dodgeball tournament. But
the Jarvis Landry again. Back to him. He's the dodgeball MVP, like year in year out.
Yeah.
It's actually a really cool clip. If you guys haven't seen it, is check out Jarvis Landry's dodgeball highlights, because I think it was 4-on-1, like the match was over.
Yeah.
And he catches all the balls to get the people out.
What do they call that in dodgeball? It's there's a tag for a double.
What are you referring to, the movie?
The movie Dodgeball.
I don't know.
Forget. Anyways, where
I just
you catch one and knock them down, and anyways.
Oh, okay. I see what you're
post
saying.
The clip.
Yeah. Okay. I won't post the clip.
Okay,
yeah.
We'll post the clip. Look it up yourself. Next week we have I
don't think we can commit to what's happening next week.
Okay, so we're
at
not
this
sure yet.
time.
But coming down
coming
the pipe,
soon, we have a basketball expert coming on to talk about hoops. Super pumped, close personal friend of ours. So
yeah, that should be fun.
Yeah. Just one last note. If you guys want to join inplayLIVE, click the link below. Okay, the link below will take you directly to your new membership. You can use promo code Ritzker Podcast for 40% off per month. I get a lot of questions. People ask me, is it just 40% off for the first month? No, it's 40% off in perpetuity. So click the link below, Ritzker Podcast for 40% off, and then we definitely want to hear from you. So if you have any questions for us, any comments, we would love to address them on future podcasts. And as always, like, subscribe, check us out on Instagram. And if you want to listen to us on the go, our podcast is on Apple Music, Spotify,
Google.
and Google.
Yeah.
So we'll look forward to seeing you all next week. And everyone, stay safe, stay smart, and stay disciplined. Let's go.
Boom.